So I'm making session live on Facebook now. Akriti ma'am, 15 minutes to go live now.
15 seconds.
15 seconds.
Sure.
Starting now. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Now we are live. Dear all, welcome and thank you so much, everyone, all the panelists, for accepting our invitation. I, Shivam Sharma, and entire Pusa Krishi team welcome you all in 9th Agri India Meet. Agri India Meet was conceptualized and inaugurated by Honorable Agriculture Minister Shri Narendra Tomarji. It was an event which has started as an engagement activity within agripreneurs and youth who are unlocking entrepreneurship and agribusiness opportunities by their innovative mind. But now, Agri India Meet is our monthly activity, which we organize on various topics covering precision farming and a couple of more topics in agri and allied sector, which engages best of the speakers and reputations from and participation from industry, academia, startups, and government. Today, Agri India Meet is on waste to wealth and green energy in agriculture, which is one of the trending topic in Delhi during winters with respect to climate change and sustainable development goals. Many unanswered questions will be answered by our expert who have really contributed today a lot to the ecosystem and also are working with deep engagement with helping farmers in Punjab, Haryana, and entire part of India. Without wasting much time, I'm happy to introduce Dr. Akriti Sharma from Pusa Krishi and ZTM BPD unit of ICAR-IRI for formally throwing the light on the session and welcoming our esteemed panelist. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Shivam. Our distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, along with the Young Startup Brigade and agripreneurs, a very good evening to all of you. I, on the behalf of ICAR-IRI, welcome you all in our 9th Agri India Meet, which is focusing on waste to wealth and green energy in agriculture. The series of Agri India Meet was initiated last year with the launch of Agri India Hackathon, as rightly mentioned by Shivam, which was inaugurated by Honorable Agricultural Minister Shri Narendra Tomarji on 31st of December 2020. And now we have got 24 winners after evaluating more than 6,000 applications across the whole duration. So in the series of Agri India Meets, we have completed 8 Agri India Meets covering a broad spectrum of sessions like precision agriculture, supply chain, investor and industry connect, future of food and related some other topics for benefits of agri startups and agri enthusiasts who are actually willing to change the face of Indian agriculture while keeping the technology and farmers at the center. Also, if anyone wishes to watch our previous sessions, he or she can visit our YouTube channel, which is named as Pusa Krishi. So coming to the point that every winter, as Shivam was also mentioning, that not just Delhi, but the entire northern region is frequently enveloped in a thick blanket of smoke caused by air pollution from different vehicles and industrial emissions mixed with fog. So the burning of post-harvest paddy stubble in the agricultural fields of Haryana and Punjab is generally cited as a major cause of this unhealthy smoke. Various measures have been taken by the government to help farmers manage the paddy straw using specialized equipment for chopping and mulching of straw, baling for transportation, for making biofuels. But then also many farmers have complained that the alternatives are still not lucrative, other than the simply starting fires in the fields. So today I'm glad to have such experts and young agripreneurs who have been working in the domain towards mitigating the climate risk along with incentivizing farmers and promoting green energy. I would like to have this meet towards a fruitful discussion around the topic of innovative solutions for this problem by adopting the very concept of wealth generation from waste. Also, let's try to address the concerns of the beneficiaries to make the solution reach to the last mile, the farmers, and the strategies for wider adoption of these solutions. In economics, we do generally say that if the opportunity cost for anything is at the higher end, people tend to adopt that measure more. So, how to make the alternative so lucrative that people don't go for stubble burning? So, that's what the ambition of this Agri India meet. I'm happy to welcome Shri MP Singh ji, who's the director at Punjab Energy Development Agency (PIDA), an organization which is working towards the promotion and development of renewable energy programs and energy conservation programs in Punjab. Next, we have Colonel Rohit Dev ji with us, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Punjab Renewable Energy Systems Private Limited, which is a biomass-based bioenergy company, which is spearheaded by the veterans of Indian Armed Forces. And from the scientific fraternity, we have Mr. Sunil Dhingra, who's the Associate Director of Renewable Energy Technologies at Terry University, who specializes in the field of renewable energy and development. Our young entrepreneurs, Mr. Ankur from Kriya Labs, they are working on the technology to use agri residues for making plastic-free, biodegradable packaging materials or the cutlery. And I'm sure that we are looking for these kinds of solutions in the real world so that the stubble burning problem will be solved. And last but not the least, our incubator and the moderator of today's session, Mr. Sukhmeet Singh, who's the founder of A2P Energy Private Limited, which is a startup based out of Punjab, who are working with farmers on one end to increase their income. And on the other hand, they are working with industry by producing next-gen fuels from the agricultural waste, specifically stubble, rice stubble. So again, I'm really thankful to all the panel members for accepting our invitation. I welcome you all, sir. And now I invite Mr. Sukhmeet to take the ninth Agri India Meet forward. Sukhmeet.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Akriti, for giving me the opportunity to moderate this session. As you know, rightly mentioned, the topic, it's waste to wealth. So this particular area is, no doubt one of our interest areas from A2P energy perspective. But the reason why we got interested in this area was that it has a lot of impact, both in terms of the farmer community, but also from a climate change perspective, right? So the topic is waste to wealth. So how do we generate more income for farmers along with help solve the climate change problem? Uh, the panel which is here today is a very interesting panel. We have people from representing government, from academia, from startups, and from, I would say, somewhat bigger companies. So what we've decided is that we will do one round of discussions where we will discuss about each of their organizations, what work they have done till now. And the next, after that, next round would be how do they see the future of their organization, and in particular, this sector where we are talking about renewable energy becoming a very niche and a strong area as far as alternate energy consumption in India is concerned. So we will start with Mr. MP Singh. We'll hear about his work in Punjab Energy Development Agency and what they have done till now. So I will request the panelists to restrict the first round of the discussion by giving around 7 minutes of talk each, they are free to present if they want. And in the next round, we will discuss about the future of their activities and their organizations. What plans do they have in specific to managing crop waste, be it renewable or be it what Ankur is doing to converting that into cutlery. So I'll request Mr. MP Singh to start with his discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I'm audible, I hope so.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Thank you, Sumit, and nice to see you all here. And thanks IARI and all under this PUSA Krishi program. And you are well aware. I don't need to deliberate much upon the background of this issue. We have a huge surplus agri residue in the state of Punjab, and paddy straw is one of the major sources, which is rather become an environmental issue nowadays here. So from that angle, we have been working in this field for quite some time. And I have a small presentation in this regard, so we will just highlight what is the issues and what exactly we have done and what are the plans in this context. So I am trying to share this presentation. Hope it is visible to all of you.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. So the state of Punjab, as you're well known, is a agri bowl of the country. And about 35 to 40% of the you can say food or the crop and all those things coming in from the state of Punjab. Still, it is a granary of the country. Next slide. Next slide. So what we estimate is around something like 17.5 to 18 million tons as per latest figures available with us. And out of that, about 7.5 million tons is getting utilized to in situ utilization and other industrial applications. This is the data available to us from the Agriculture Department, Government of Punjab. And we are currently using around something like an existing biomass power projects. And we still will have about 8 to 10 million tons, which will be required to be managed scientifically. So we are actively working in these areas now: bio-CNG, bioethanol, biomass power, cogeneration, and some other ex situ applications. So still there are challenges around. All these projects are not as easy as it does seem as compared to other RE technologies, maybe hydro, solar, and other areas in which we are also active. But definitely, I'll say that these are two projects one has to manage. One is the technology component, though that will be much easier to manage. But what the real thing is to be managed is the collection, storage, transport, and then utilization of the same in a year-round fashion for this paddy straw, which is collected in that short window of 20-25 days. And you also have a presentation from Colonel Rohit Dev, and I think so he will be a much better I'm going to say speaker on the fact that how they collect, and they have a good support and technology systems available in which they collect and how they manage the show. So state is providing a number of incentives for bringing these projects, and also a lot of private sector investment coming into these sectors, because all projects are not coming in by the public sector mode. So we are providing a lot of such benefits. You can see electricity duty exemption, and then CLU charges, panchayat land is available, then land stamp duty registration charges exempt. In addition, we are also providing a lot of incentives under the industrial policy also, which is basically property tax exemption. Then also there is a 100% electricity duty exemption for 10 years of operation also. So these kind of incentives are available. In addition, there is also 10 years net SGST reimbursement also, which is capped at 125% of FCI. These are available under the industrial policy. So we already have an existing project. You are already aware. We have also, this used to be a power generation project of 1 megawatt capacity. And we have converted this now into bio-CBG plant of around 4 TPD. And this line is now under, what should I say, trial runs. And I think so we'll be shortly starting supply, maybe another 10, 15 days or 20 days at the most, to the nearest Indian oil pump in Ludhiana for from this project. And another project of similar capacity is coming up at Tajpur Dairy Complex. This is again going to be similar capacity. Here we are using similar different digesters. Again, this is purely on bio-CBG. And currently 19 CBG projects are under construction, and some are in some slightly pre-project activities. So this will be around something like 200 tons per day of compressed biogas. And all these projects are going to utilize paddy straw. We have also one bioethanol project of 100 kiloliters per day in district Bathinda, which is under construction. Then the largest project of 80,000 cubic meter, which you are all aware of, is Verbio, which has already completed construction, and now they have started charging their digesters. So all this, what we feel is going to lead to about something like close to 1 million, 0.85 million tons per annum of consumption of paddy straw. All these projects have been facilitated, supported by PEDA. We have around 11 biomass power projects utilizing around 0.88 million tons of paddy straw of capacity 97.5 megawatt capacity, which is in operation. There are other 2 projects which are in advanced stage of commissioning. So what we figure out that we need to work slightly more in this sector in terms of policy and also some regulatory, more in-depth regulatory framework, for which I have highlighted certain key issues. And we have also been requesting Government of India to take this forward as a policy, as a national biomass mission. And also, we are also in talks with Ministry of Petroleum, Natural Gas. There is also a state Sadat committee which has been recently formed. And we are leveraging this CBG, this offtake agreements into more bankable nature. And also, we have also given a lot of suggestions in this regard, whereby we feel that much more work will happen in the CBG area very shortly. So this is our action plan for the future slightly, which I've slightly tried to highlight. And what we feel that we will be able to touch around something like 5 million tons of paddy straw consumption in all these solutions, provided we get the support from the Government of India and also some policy decisions and regulatory support from the Ministry of Petroleum, Natural Gas. So that's all I have to give. I wanted to be not taking much time on to this. And that's all, Sukhmeet, and I think so from my side.
Yeah, thank you, MP Singh ji. Very interesting work, and obviously the scale, what government can help achieve industry, that support is required at this point of time, I would say, for the renewable sector. Next, we will go to Mr. Dhingra to understand about his work in terms of the technology solutions. Mr. MP Singh discussed about in the focus on CBG, but I'm sure there are other solutions which are which have been focusing from an R&D perspective. So let's hear from Mr. Dhingra what TERI has been working on solving the crop residue problem, and also from their perspective, what solutions would be viable in terms of managing paddy straw.
So thank you very much, Sukhmeet, for giving me the opportunity, and the organizers for hosting this very important webinar on very important subject, which is concerning all of us as a citizen, and also the research and the stakeholders who are looking for solutions around this theme. So let me introduce first that I am Sunil Dhingra, and I'm part of renewable energy team at TERI, the Energy and Resources Institute. We are not-for-profit think tank, and associated with this subject for quite long in terms of aspects which are so looking at this crop residue burning. So TERI is doing a lot of this air and pollution and air pollution assessment modeling work for last couple of years. Looking at numbers, that how much contribution of air pollution is coming from crop residue burning, which is a larger issue the research community and the policy maker are trying to look at. From some of the past number of previous years, as we can see, the air pollution contribution of PM 2.5 into the overall contribution of pollution in NCR region, which is a debatable question during harvesting time. So anything from 14 to 16% contribution on an annual basis is coming from, so that is the assessment we have done last year. But when you look at from particular days when this burning is happening, the contribution is as high as 70%. So those are the emergency days when everything need to be shut down and the air pollution level because of PM 2.0. So those kind of studies and their impact on health is also one of the research area which TERI is doing a lot of work, and we are publishing our results. So apart from that, coming to which is the core purpose, is that the solution side of that, which is the purpose of this webinar. So TERI do a lot of these assessment studies in terms of availability of these biomass, not only for paddy straw in Punjab, Haryana and northwestern state, but also on a pan-India basis. So we have recently done for Gujarat, for example. There are a lot of this cotton stalk is burnt in those geographies. We are currently doing assessment for Maharashtra, for example, very much on the similar lines, also to determine the price of these biomass fuels, because any value addition or post conversion, whether energy or non-energy application, the critical question is that what is the price of these biomass, which is today is waste and it is burned. So the whole business model and financial readiness of those projects will depend upon the price. So that kind of a studies, advanced studies, we are currently doing. So a lot of depositories of data we have collected over past few years. So that is one specific work we are doing. Then on technology, we are focusing on both, I would say, thermochemical technologies and biochemical technologies. So thermochemical, we talk about gasification as very important technology to convert this into syngas, and syngas for heat, power and cooling application. Because we see there's a lot of cooling energy demand, unmet cooling energy demand in most of the geography where this waste material is available. While I would say the electricity needs are very much met through other forms of renewable energies like solar, wind, or any other form at very cost competitive price. It is cooling energy where we have developed certain solution for agriculture value chain, like running a decentralized cold storage. And we are trying to promote that in different geography where farmers are adopting these solutions, and there is some amount of incentive which is available from Ministry of Agriculture and also from MNRE perspective, and making it scalable. So like in states like Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, where large number of these decentralized cold storage chain are being set up using either solar or biomass-based solution, which are basically absorption chiller. And one of the objective of our future work is also linking AD technology, the anaerobic digestion, the biogas for cooling applications. So we see there is a huge opportunity for converting this waste material for cooling application, and where solutions are in-house developed. Then we are also looking solutions around converting this material into I would say briquettes or pellets, where particularly in case of paddy, for example, we are currently a paddy which is very abrasive in nature because of the silica content, high silica content. We are developing some advanced coating on this conversion machinery like pelletizing machine or briquetting units. And one such plant we are advanced system. We are right now in the commissioning stage. We are doing with Punjab State Council for Science and Technology, and our entrepreneur partner is Prespel in these cases. So one such machine which will improve the economical viability of converting these material into pellets or briquettes will be there with support from DST. So that is the advanced work we are currently doing. Then we are also working on some of the research aspects of thermal degradation of this crop residue from tri-generation application. When I say tri-generation application, it is for heat, power, and fertilizer application. So this activity, which is still in the research and the pilot scale, and hoping to scale up in coming years, which will further improve the viability of this paddy straw utilization at the field level. We do a lot of financial modeling and business model development in different geography for because until unless whatever scale of technology one is talking about, until unless the right business model at the grassroots level, so there some work is happening. And on top of that, the very critical role is that the training, because as these new forms of energy or new form of solutions are to be scaled up, so much human manpower training may be required. So there, TERI is involved with the Skill Council for Science and Skill Council for Green Job, for providing training for these operators and the manager or entrepreneurs in this sector. So that is the area where TERI is working on. I just touch upon one of the critical area where we are currently doing this for IEA, that International Energy Agency, where we are trying to develop energy balance for biofuels in India. As we all know that there is huge amount of energy which can be drawn from biofuels in India on the number which is available. But if one look at from the current energy balance, if one look at it is contributing 7% of the total primary energy supply through, I would say, modern biomass fuels perspective. Like we are talking about biogas or biomass to power or cogeneration plant. So this is the contribution this currently in the overall energy mix that is coming. So we have just accounted that piece of work. And if you look at from the perspective of zero carbon strategy point of view, which is country is looking at, then something around 50% of the primary energy consumption can come from the modern biofuels, which we are talking about. So this is the potential of biomass or crop residue or is there in the country to meet at 50% of primary energy requirement can theoretically be can come from biofuels. And that quantification work is currently on. And we believe that this will give confidence to the investor in this sector because lack of reliable data of the biofuels in India is one of the critical gap in raising investment for this sector. And I think Colonel Rohit Dev and other people on this panel will agree on this. And this is the critical gap we are trying to fulfill in the current activities which we are doing. So I stop here and wait for our next round of comments on this panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sunil Dhingra, for your inputs. And we will have follow-up questions in the next round. But thanks a lot for giving a perspective from Terry and the whole technology solution, and also from assessment of the biomass perspective in India. So we'll discuss more about that in the next round of the discussion. Now I'd like to invite Colonel Rohit Dev, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Punjab Renewable Energy Systems. Colonel Rohit, will like to understand first from your perspective. You have a very different journey in your previous career stint, I would say. So, tell us more about what made you shift from being an operational expert in Indian Army to joining a renewable energy space, and then to talk about your current work, what you're doing in Pressfield.
Sure, thank you. You didn't tell me about that first question. So let me just tell you that while I was in the armed forces and quite young at that, I always thought that there are 24 hours in one person's life. And the last part of the inspiration I got was from the US president, the previous one, Mr. Barack Obama, a man who could run nearly the entire world, do what was expected in his administration of his country, and still had time to pursue his hobby and play with his kids and dine out. So if you look at a holistic approach as a citizen of a country, I think 24 hours, Sukhmeet, are aplenty. And in 24 hours, you can do much more. So while I'm in the current avatar into the renewable sector, I still maintain my cords with the military, and I'm an advisor there on a lot of issues. I'm also working with the urban ministry for smart cities. I am deeply involved in the mission of Annadata to Urjadatta in this current company. If you see television, I'm there on television shows in the evenings. I write for papers. I'm an adjunct professor in a couple of universities. So that's life, Sukhmeet, and that is the way it's supposed to go. 24 hours should be accounted for as a citizen. Otherwise, we will be doing a little less. Having said that, let me come to the point itself. So I'll just not take much time, just about 3 to 4 minutes only, so that we have more time for interaction. I am the CEO of Punjab Renewable Energy Systems Private Limited, which is a company which deals primarily only with the biomass sector. So in all that we all see in the renewable energy sector, we only deal with parali. We only deal with agricultural waste. And that is from where my good friend Monish, and I'm quite sure you all are aware of him also as well, started the company thinking that the supply chain is something which can take our country forward, because in the years to come, not only would you require biomass to create briquettes and pellets, you will also go into CBG, 2G ethanol, making furniture, making utensils. So that is the future of the biomass. So we got incorporated in 2011. And since then, we have had 3 series of funding. First to start with 2013 by Responsibility, a Zurich-based company, Impact Fund, their first investment in India, followed by NEEF Fund, which is the sovereign G2G funding from the government of UK and SBI. And that came in the month of April 2019. And then August the same year, we had a strategic investment from Shell. And yet again, this year, we're looking at a strategic investment from a very big corporation. I'm quite sure we'll be happy and able to announce it in the next 2 weeks' time. In this journey, where we are, primarily Pressfield deals with 3 streams of energy-related work. The first stream, if I put it in a layman's terms so that the people understand here, is taking away the fossil fuel from the canvas of the energy sector and replacing it with biofuels. So what we primarily do is wherever you see a boiler or any other appliance where you burn fossil fuel today, we are aiming to replace that with biomass, whether it be a baled form or a chipped form or a densified form of a briquette or a pellet. We are the company which is a large supply chain company to give a client, a private industry or otherwise, this as a commodity. As a forward integration in this sector, we do operation and maintenance of these boilers. And a further forward integration, we also invest in the boilers. So to say that the entire farm to factory connect is handled by our company. And we are truly a bioenergy company when we are doing the last two segments of this particular stream, the O&M part and the boot part. And we give steam to the client as a utility. What Dr. Dhingra also brought out, there are two more things associated with this particular boiler operation. One is cogeneration, in which we also give electricity as a part along with the steam, and trigeneration, in which the third one is heating and cooling for the building and the machines which can be given through this process. The second stream where our company operates is again in the bioenergy sector, is conversion. So whether you convert this biomass into CBG, bio-CNG, or you convert into ethanol, 2G ethanol, that is the other realm where aggregation of biomass takes center stage because the quantums enhance, like you saw with Mr. MP Singh's slides, a CBG project going up to 40 to 60, 1,000 tons of aggregation per annum, and the bigger one with Verbio being 80 right now. Similarly, the ethanol plants go up to 1.2 lakhs, 2 lakhs, 2 lakhs plus lakh tons. And that is the kind of challenge which comes on the supply chain and which our company is ready to undertake. We have successfully curated some models for the CBG plants of private sector. And we are also looking at the 2G ethanol sector where we were, incidentally, when the tenders went in for HPCL Bhatenda and BPCL Bargarh 2 years back, we were the L1 bidders then. Now, the future of this industry is something which we can talk about. The third stream which we have is primarily to do with what Dr. Dhingra said, biomass assessment study. So like the work done on ground by Terry is similar what we also do on ground by employing resources for a very detailed primary survey, which only is not important to tell a client where the biomass and how much it is. We also put our neck out and give him a supply chain model for minimum 10 to 15 years and the price points by which we are able to sign contracts with them and go into business. It's something which even the big four, big five do not do currently. And in this stream, which is non-energy type, we are also looking at aggregation for smaller players and smaller entrepreneurs. One was very lucky to be associated with the Agri Hackathon earlier this year. And a lot of promise in our entrepreneurs, which we saw there. Somebody is making straws, somebody is making utensils, somebody is looking at furniture. So there is a whole lot of canvas up till bioplastics, which is available in the country, where we can replace the traditional use of material by the biomass. And like I say, this is the perfect example of the Prime Minister's vision of Annadatta to Urja Data, which not only gives an additional income to the farmer, it has a direct bearing on our climate. It has a direct bearing on the health of the people, like we mentioned at the beginning when you introduced this webinar about what happens in Delhi NCR during the period of stubble burning or otherwise. And it also has a financial inclusion. It has a gamut of sustainable development goals. If you see actually my company, Sukhmeet, and you see those 17 SDG goals, you will find that we are taking all of them to the T. And that is something which was recognized this year, thanks to the government of Punjab and the UN SDG. We were awarded for that last year as well. So as we go on, we are becoming a company which is more alive to the EHS and ESG governance principles. We are much more aware to the climate change principles. We are much more aware to ensure that the carbon GHG emissions goes down. Incidentally, we are a company which is now being invested by even foreign governments like UK to do a 5-year study to see where our company is going in the next 5 years in all our business verticals, which I mentioned to you earlier, in terms of savings in carbon emission. And we are a company, I will give you a small example, the MNCs which we have, which are associated with us. One of them is L'Oreal. When we were applying for a boot project with them and tendering and talking to them, they had a third party, full-fledged kind of a CO2 emission kind of a check done on our company for that particular project. And it is on that major count that they were able to accord us that particular project to coming to Prespel, because like you know, L'Oréal Paris is very, very stringent on its commitment to the environment. So these were the short principles and streams where Prespel operates. Our company has grown nearly 6x in the last 2 years, not counting what we call COVID. In COVID, we have doubled our revenue, and we are staged to look at about a 10x growth with the current mandate and projects in hand in the next 3 years. So that is the growth pattern. And since you started off with the military part, the top 5 in the company, the MD, that's Monish, me, and the CTO, Colonel Malhan, and 2 senior VPs of 2 primary zones, which is the North Zone and the South Zone. We all are, from the military. We are all ex-NDS. We are same batch, and we are the same squadron, if you have any idea, because you asked me that question. That is the bonhomie we have at the level of our management, and that is something which we hold very dear. And that is a USP. So we have a USP to collect biomass. We have a USP to store all that database in 5 to 7 good heads and safe heads. And that is the way forward tomorrow. And I think that as we are going along, Prespel is not sufficient for our country. We need, as of yesterday, about 10,000 Prespels to already have been there. But that is the sad luck that they are not there. And we will do what is in our capacities to influence policy making to make sure that the sector grows. Thank you for your time, Sukhmeet, and other participants.
Thank you, Colonel Dev. Yeah, it is very interesting to hear about your personal journey and obviously the excellent growth which Prespel has done in the renewable energy field. Next, we go to Mr. Ankur, who is the co-founder of Kriya Labs. His story is also very interesting. A young fellow from IIT trying to do his part in terms of doing an R&D and making a solution for tablewares. We all know tableware or disposable tableware generally is made from either plastic or thermocol, which ultimately ends up in some kind of garbage which is not treated or again recycled back. So we'll hear more from Ankur. Ankur, how did you, being an IIT Delhi alumnus, probably the first thing we assume is that they will take a job in a good MNC or go directly abroad to do an MS. But you've started your own startup. So tell us more about your personal journey and then also about what Kriya Labs is doing.
So, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to present my work at this platform. Actually, it was kind of a college project. We were working on paper recycling and stuff like that. And then we heard about the air pollution, which is the major cause is stubble burning. And then we kind of evolved our project into this thing. So we started working on paddy straw way back in 2017 itself. And the idea was to develop a technology which can actually make material out of these agricultural residues. Because we believe that in materials, we have low quantity, but the value addition is higher. And if there is high value addition, the value can be distributed among different stakeholders involved in the process of value addition. And we think that when we go to materials like paper or tableware or any other cellulosic product per se, the market governs the price. For example, you can, depending on the quality of product, the quality of material you are able to manufacture, you can charge differently from different market segments and market customers. That is the main idea. And in order to work on that idea, we have developed. We have faced different iterations. We have developed different technologies, and right now we are at a stage where we think we can commercialize, and the technology is hopefully going to work. The idea is to make a small system, a very small micro system, where 500 kg, 600 kg of straw will be taken and converted to biodegradable tablewares only. And those tablewares, because they are manufactured from locally available materials, the price would be competitive to existing plastic tablewares also. It will not be cheaper than that, but obviously it will not be 3 times or 4 times costly. So the idea is to generate such multiple local ecosystems so that there is a value addition in these agricultural residue at the source. And on these lines, we are on the verge of commercialization. In the times of COVID, we had to shut our operations for a while, and we have restarted again. And hopefully, in some time, we'll be launching the products in the market. Yeah.
Thank you, Ankur, for giving your side of the story and also about the materials perspective. Now what we'll do, there are some questions which have come, and we'll go again to each panelist and ask briefly about the questions what have come. Otherwise, as we decided, we'll talk about more from a future perspective. So we'll start with Mr. MP Singh. Mr. MP Singh, I wanted to ask if, let's suppose, there is an entrepreneur or a fresh graduate, if they want to start something around waste to wealth or to work on paddy straw management, how should they think about even starting up of a manufacturing unit? Is there a single window clearance available in Punjab, or is PIDA handles these kind of startups or initiatives? So just tell more about this, and also from a future perspective, where do you think PIDA's role would be in terms of the whole renewable energy sector in Punjab?
Yeah, thank you, Sumit. And you are well aware we are already supporting a number of proposals which are in pipeline or already have been crystallized. Plus, we are also in talks with multifarious organizations, and there are some new companies also from UK. We recently had some bilateral engagements. So there are startups who are looking at possibilities of picking up some projects in Punjab. We are already in talks through the FCDO, that is the UK High Commission. We recently were in talks with them, and still the Deputy British High Commission is still in touch with us, specifically in the field of biogas and CBG. For startups or entrepreneurs, as you're talking young graduates, we are already doing a lot of hand-holding here in this organization. Like graduates from various colleges, they do a lot of in-house training and in-semester trainings at our projects spread out in the state of Punjab. The 6 months in-semester trainings in the engineering colleges, and later on also, some of the entrepreneurs and even some of these graduates have also joined us also as who have worked, and many of them have moved out or moved abroad as part of their career progression. And we have been doing a lot of hand-holding in these areas. For young people who want to start up, sometimes for these kind of large capacity projects, what we are proposing is that they can look at smaller projects whereby initial capital investments are quite low. And we are also encouraging some kind of projects like new initiatives which we are looking at, whereby smaller biogas projects, we are in talks with another ministry, whereby we are looking at village level CBG projects also. That thing is still going on at this moment. We have yet not opened up, but we are looking at the possibilities then moving to sub megawatt scale and maybe below, something like in the range of 200, 300 kilowatt, and looking at some technology options whereby with small investment also some such kind of projects can be set up. In those kind of areas, we feel that there will be huge scope. And even citing certain other examples, we are also looking at the possibility of these projects like briquetting and collection mechanisms also. Because in this, through the Department of Agriculture, we are also providing that 50% support for collection equipment also. So there are immense opportunities. And if we talk of other sectors also, like small hydros, then solar power, rooftop, and then there are other sectors where we are also active, that is co-generation, and we are also exploring opportunities now this under the hydrogen program also. So there will be immense future for the renewables as we progress. We are looking at some 1 or 2 pilot scale hybrid projects also. And we are opening up the field in the area of this CBG as a piped gas, where we are holding some discussions with the Gas Authority of India Limited also. There could be some intermediary and other roles also opening up not as just manufacturing projects also, but also in the support whereby there'll be some intermediaries who will be required, who will be basically required for transportation, storage of these kind of CBG and maybe other energy products. So we're looking at various key areas in these sectors also. As and as these things progress, we will be opening up. And we are very sure that these technologies will progress to a state whereby they will be like in-house commercial applications possible at the village level also. So I feel that we are open and we'll be very keen to handhold such kind of startups also. And recently we have also opened up certain avenues with local banking partners also, whereby some support can be provided in terms of in the Punjab State Cooperative Bank, up to a certain extent, they are readily floated a scheme for the rooftop PV. And also they are also ready to float with us for the solar pumping. Also, they have floated a scheme where they are ready to fund up to, I think so, 80 to 90% of the farmers' share. So such kind of things are happening in the state.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. MP Singh. Yeah, hearing your talk, I guess it just feels that this particular sector will just explode of the opportunities, and I'm very happy to hear that the government is playing its role on its part in terms of not only helping the bigger organizations to come and set up the units here, but also the hand holding the young startups to help establish small scale plants. Now going further to Mr. Sunil Dhingra, so I'll just take one cue from Mr. MP Singh's discussion, and also related to one of the queries which has come up that related to cow dung based biogas plants. So Mr. MP Singh mentioned about smaller biogas or CBG plants at village level, and one of the participants has asked about questions about biogas and fertilizers based on cow dung. So Mr. Dhingra, I have two questions. One is related to this, how does one set up this particular cow dung based biogas plant? Second, a more general question is that if a young entrepreneur or if somebody wants to take some technology solution from TERI, how the whole process works, and how is there a 1 point window where they can approach TERI to help solve a technical problem, or if there is already a solution, take that solution from TERI and go to market with that. So can you give more context on that?
Need something to drink?
So thank you very much, and let me try to answer your first query in terms of AD digester based system. If somebody want to set up as a user or as an entrepreneur, so there are, on the policy front, there are I think in MNRE there are 3 different policy window are there, where if one is looking at for the family size, which is 1 to 6 cubic meter of biodigester based on livestock waste or any other waste which is available to him or her, then he can take incentive from this scheme to set up his own biogas plant system. There is a subsidy which is available under that window, and generally speaking, these are for meeting some of the cooking energy demand of the particular household where this biogas system can be set up. But more coming to slightly bigger scale, then there is a window of community-based biogas system for institutions, for example, where up to 25 kilowatt electrical output system can, the biogas system can be set up. And again, 30 to 40% subsidy is available from this scale of program. Beyond that, these are all waste to energy category projects. It can be applicable for cooking or for heating, for example, then for power generation and for CBG kind of a projects. these are large scale investment based projects where different scale of funding is there, subsidies there depending upon what application one is looking at. For example, CBG, 12,000 cubic meter of biogas plant can attract about 4 crore rupees per project. Just to offset its initial investment cost. So these three broad category of policies are there in MNRE, where one can take advantage in those projects. Coming to the second, we have a range of technological solutions which we have licensed to local entrepreneurs. I could name a couple of them in where we have thermal gasifier based solution, and something around 20 such licensing agreement we have given it to in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat, where these entrepreneurs have actually commercialized this technology on those clusters in those geographies. So there is a standard, like any other research institution, we have a separate cell which is dealing with this IP commercialization related work, and that is very simple process. One has to apply, and then this the IP commercialization group will talk to them and then give the manufacturing rights or commercialization right as such. So this is the process which is there with us for most of the technology where IP is generated in-house. But many of the technology, I would say, which are, I think, off IP also, which is we can provide knowledge to those entrepreneurs, and they can build their own system based on the knowledge which we have created in-house. So there are two ways. If the IP is active, and then one has to go through this IP commercialization route, and otherwise where there is a knowledge and IP is not valid as of now because it is expired in terms of its validity, then one can we can provide the information, and then they can use that. So these are the two ways one can work with us on these solutions.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dhingra. And I'm sure we have a lot of participants who must be interested in this field and looking out for technologies. I'm sure Terry would handle them to start their enterprise. Now moving to Colonel Rohitev. Colonel Rohitev, the first question I'd like to ask is, you mentioned about India already needs 10,000 SPLs. So I would ask, the question is that, what do you think are the challenges? Why the sector has not opened up, and why haven't we seen these many numbers of SPL like companies? And second question is about the future growth. Where do you see the growth of this sector coming in from? Is it either CBG plants? Is it into being into the supply chain or the collection of the biomass, or it's related to other upcoming technologies like trigeneration?
Thank you, Sumit. Firstly, this sector was in a very nascent stage. If you go back to 2011, 12, 2010, when we talked about biogas, that time initially, with a lot of subsidies infused into the system, and when the subsidies went away, this actually sector went kaput. And that is the reason from there it has not been able to revive itself. And when we looked at the renewable energy sector in 2016, 17, and me and Monish over, a cup of tea were discussing, and we were quite aghast to understand that in renewable energy, everything was to do with electricity in our country, right? So it was more like a Ministry of New and Renewable Electricity, which was running the show. And we had not seen the entire facet of what more could go into get into renewable energy beyond electricity. So whether it was solar, wind, hydel, the entire purpose was to get electricity. That change has happened in 2019. So the first challenge in the sector is the policy enunciations which need to go through. And that was a small beginning in which RE was defined in terms of steam energy, heating and cooling. And similar to power purchase agreements, our company and now quite a few of them are doing steam purchase agreements with clients, whether it be Thermax or us or somebody else who's in the fray. And the second part is the financial viability. It is not coming in. I'll give you a small short example of what's going around, say in NTPC. We need a whole lot of biomass to make those pellets and then supply to NTPC to achieve about 10% of co-firing only, right? But say, for example, I don't take a name, but say a X plant requires say 1,000 tons per day of pellets. Now, when you do a tender in which the financial tenure is 4 years, the offtake guarantees of 4 years, you can get around that radius of 50, 70 kilometers, some farmers who can put up one machine, who can make about 10, 20, 30 TPD per day and give it to you. You may also have a consortium of people putting up a machine or two and giving it to you. But when you add it all up, it woefully falls short by 50% or so, because there is no further bandwidth to scale it up. And that is where you need people like yourselves and ourselves to come in and chip in with the private sector push. And private sector push requires money, it requires lending, it requires money to be taken from banks or financial institutions. And when you turn to those banks, 4 years is a non-viable tenure for taking any kind of a long-term loan. So that is the second part. The third part is there are not many minds which are looking at this transition. It has become lucrative, especially after the International Solar Alliance was signed off, for people to do the solar business in the renewable sector. And for bigger firms, whether it are the large corporate houses, it is easier to talk about that opportunity and get it done. And in the process, get the tariff reduced from X, Y, Z, and suddenly we are in the range of 2 to 2.5 rupees per unit. Whereas the base problem and the most important thing to understand was that agricultural feedstock in a country like India has to be supported. Agriculture has to be supported for sustenance, for the population, for the growth. And once you think of that, had we thought of this waste as energy long time back, we probably would have reached somewhere else. We started a little late by a decade or two, or maybe more. But now is the time to understand that this is a perennial source of energy lying in your backyard, which is going into wasteful burning, wasteful non-utilization. Rather than you can convert it into biofuels, bio-CNG, use the same thing as pellet and briquettes to derive energy from the same boiler, reduce the cost of the exchequer. So these are the policy conundrums which are facing our country today. And unfortunately, Sukhmeet and the other panelists, we don't have an energy transition plan. So if we don't have an energy transition plan, I'll give you a small example. We want to have electrical vehicles in the days to come, right? You can't put a mandate, 2024 will be EV. We can't be. So you have to see where is the aircraft industry going? How much of blending required there? How much biomass required there to drive that? How do you make 2G ethanol and put it in your car engines like Brazil? It's easier to talk Brazil, but it's difficult to do Brazil because there are a lot of challenges. On ground, the ecosystem, everybody has his profit margin. I have mine, transporter has his, everybody has his profit margin. So when you add profit margins and you don't have a collective application of stakeholders, you will reach a value. For example, CBG, the technology comes at a cost and a price point which nobody can fathom, because it is just an arbitrary cost which is being taken, whether you are running 2G ethanol or CBG projects. The technology takes the cake there. Thereafter, there are people like us and others. So I will give you a small example how to do it. And we have less time, just 30 seconds. We can create an ecosystem of a 4P model. That is my USP, what I've created in the last 2.5 years being out in the corporate sector. So 3P, everybody knows. The 4th P is the people. And this people in this bioenergy transition is the farmer, is the rural person. So what you do is you can take his prali. People used to take it for free. At times they were forced by circumstances and norms and policies to give it to you at a cost. They used to say, come and tile the 1 acre and take 300 rupees. But our company has never gone into that. We have always given farmer the money. Why? You give him some money and everybody thereafter till the end contributes. The state government gives land on lease on long-term tenure. It's a land lying with the state. It can give it. It can give it at a very nominal cost. The warehousing can be done by PSUs, whether for finished goods or whether for the biomass. And similarly, the logistics setup can be set up and nobody marks up. We come as a team from the farm to the factory and we sell the product. The manufacturing cost will reduce by at least 30% today. And once you do that and you have a higher share of profits, please plow back 1 to 2% to the farmer again, so that the entire ecosystem remains rejuvenated and the farmer has got no reason to wastefully disuse that particular biomass. So that in short is something which we can curate. We were looking at the example and I'm quite happy MP sir is here. Punjab has been a state which has been seeking a lot of advice and information from all stakeholders for a long time now. And they are being able to make proactive surges into this bioenergy sector in bits and pieces though, but they're doing that quite effectively. And that is the way forward. So they understand the problem. The problem is nothing else. The problem is stubble. And there is a volume to the stubble. There is a location and geospatial location of stubble. You have to form clusters. You have to get the energy mix right and look at 2070 today, 50 years from now. Not 1 year, 2 year of a government term that what we have done. The energy transition has to be mapped. The energy need based on the number of humans, vehicles, factories in 50 years has to be mapped today. And that's how you are going to go ahead. So that in short is something is required, a deeper vision, interministerial coordination, and then finally, a big amount of money from USAID or somebody, 2,000 crore kind of a package to give an impetus without traditional subsidies. You have agricultural parks in states, make 4 in Punjab, and then lease out the agricultural equipment pre-harvest and pro-harvest to people and the farmer and the companies like Presspear and yours. So all that can be done. And that is where everybody has to put his neck out and do his part to make sure that the bioenergy sector on biomass thrives better and the surge and the scale up is better. I don't see Ambani's here. I don't see Tata's here. So that is the problem, because it's easier not to get your boots dirty and do something in renewable energy rather than getting yourself dirty and look at a future which is even more sustainable. And you are prompting the agriculture sector to remain agricultural and rural and not drive yourselves away from there outside to urban sectors, leaving the farming to be done by somebody else tomorrow. So that's again a challenge. Imagine the opportunity of the CORSIA norms imposed on SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. You have to make those blended fuels from biomass itself. Imagine the plantation drive which can go through in the wastelands. The amount of opportunities of job and money can be created in the rural sector. So that is something what we need to vibe as a stakeholder, and we should be able to work in good partnerships together rather than marking up our own profits and cost. That's from my side, Sukhvir.
Thank you, Colonel Rohit. And I would fully agree. We also work in this space, working with farmers and corporates. You added the 4th P, and in our vision and mission statement, we also keep farmers at the core of our activity. And you were right that even if we give 1 or 2% of the profitability back to farmers, they stand by us over the years. And seeing the number of projects coming up, be it bio CBG plants or other different products, I guess taking in consideration farmer point of view is very, very important. We are not, unlike other countries where you have hundreds or thousands of acres owned by one farmer family. Here we have 7 to 10 acres. And I've seen, corporates which are coming from these kind of countries where the average farmland is very huge. The first question they ask is, who will deal with these hundreds or thousands of farmers to collect farm waste? And here we are talking about, scale of collecting at some projects, maybe 500 TPD per day or 500 TPD. So, how do you collect so much biomass if farmers is not at the core of it? So thanks for your inputs. Going to next, Ankur. Ankur, yours is a slightly different area. There is already a lot of attention now as far as energy is concerned, and talking about, whenever we are talking about stubble burning, people talk about renewable energy, bioenergy. When you go and explore the opportunity for your product, which is into the material side, you will always compete with thermocol or plastics, which I'm sure are cheaper versions of it, but not sustainable. So I'd like to understand from your perspective, do you see so much support coming in either from the government, like we have now policies from the renewable energy sector, or from the corporates who might be opening up for these alternate materials? So do you think, are there still a lot of challenges for a company like you to come in, or is the environment being supportive, for these kind of products?
So largely the environment is very supportive in these kind of products. But when it comes to material, we need to position our product correctly so that there is a perfect product market fit. Like in our case, our products are slightly yellowish in color. The product has the color of the paddy straw, but the products which are already in the market are white in color, and there are different varieties. So in general, the perception of most of the Indians is that white is better. The market survey data which we got. So we need to market the products. We need to reach out to the customers and offer the total offering. It's not just a plate. It's not just a tableware. It has a story behind it. So that has to come out clearly in the marketing side. And yes, when we go to corporate clients and many institutions, they are very supportive for these kind of things. And besides this, tablewares for different packaging applications as well, companies are looking for alternatives of plastics and other non-environment friendly alternatives. So yeah, overall the environment is supportive, but we have to be at a very point which is commercially viable also, and the quality parameters are also met. This is technically challenging because existing products have been made out of already optimized technology. But in terms of giving out new material, you need to consider different parameters while manufacturing, as well as while the end point of the product. So yeah.
So thank you, Ankur, for your inputs. I guess, yeah, Shivam, I think, and Dr. Kriti, should we close this or do we have more time?
We have 10-15 minutes more. We can go ahead.
Okay, so there are few questions which have come up, and these are like specific. Yes.
I guess if we could focus upon the previous concern which I mentioned in my starting note, that how could we make this so lucrative for the farmers to adopt that the stubble would not be burned by them. If the panelists could throw some light on that, that would really be beneficial.
Okay, so I think, yeah, Dr. Rohit did mention about the farmer's point of view, but yeah, let's hear from others also. Everybody in this field would have to start from farmers. So let's start with Dr. Sunil Dhingra. From a Terry's perspective, how do you keep farmers' interest? I'm sure the focus is on technology development and conversion into useful products for the industry. But are there any technologies or taking care of farmers' point of view? So how do you have that discussion or inputs coming in Terry from a farmer's point of view?
Okay, I will touch upon I think slightly bigger issue of this paddy straw crop residue management perspective. See, I think whatever we are talking about here is all I would say top-down kind of a process of managing this crop residue. But ultimately, this is a resource which is there with the farmer, and which is a individual resource, and it has to be planned at his level. And in that process, I think bottom-up approach is more applicable, which is that I would because each, for example, block level or district level, I see this is a resource which is at the district level. So district level crop residue management or crop residue biomass plan need to be created, looking at the need of that district, which is very unique, means maybe very different than, for example, Sangrur has a very different requirement than a district in Yamunanagar, for example. So I think we have to, the whole planning process has to be bottom up in these cases, and looking at in that particular district, what are the needs from industry perspective, where we talk about for boilers and fuels for power plants, all those kind of a thing, and or maybe CBG, for example. Uh, and also for in situ application, for example, if there is a requirement for soil application in that particular district because of the deficiency, one should look at that also one on the priority basis in that particular district. So my sense is, because this is very dispersed nature of resource, and it's a farmer resource, we need to make plan for district level planning process has to be there. And then whatever, whether it is CBG or bioethanol or biomass to power or biomass to pellet or making this has to come from those plants. And then we should empower those agencies who are responsible on those districts for implementing those plans in terms of financial resource, in terms of incentive to farmers, all these things. So I think something wrong in our planning process as of now is that we are looking this top-down kind of approach, that we would like to implement CBG and in this scale or bioethanol. But let's look at from the energy security of those districts itself. What is the need there? If I have a lot of industry which is using coal, for example, and you can find many of these districts like Ludhiana or Mandi Govindgarh or maybe other industrial towns, then it makes sense that to replace coal for like we are talking about zero carbon plans for the country. Why not we make zero carbon plan for the district? So we have to look at what type of fossil fuel consumption is there in those districts and look at very specific plans. And that is what I will vouch on this group. Let us do some pilots planning process in some selected districts and try to implement those plans rather than looking at this national level programs to address this challenge.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Dhingra. Next, I'd like to ask a similar question to Dr. MP Singh, Mr. MP Singh. Dr. Ikriti mentioned about the farmer's point of view, and being in Punjab, we could actually count on fingers the companies which are working with farmers on stubble collection, and seeing the kind of projects which are coming up. I'm sure currently the capacity to do collection is by far not matching to what the projects are coming up. So, Mr. MP Singh ji, when these companies which are setting up these bigger units or bigger plants for CBG, I guess the question would always come in that how do we do the collection bit? How do we deal with so many farmers? And as I said, the number of these kind of companies which are dealing with farmers and then able to give stubble to these CBG companies year around is very, very limited. So, how does PIDA helps in this, or do you think there's an opportunity for more number of players to come in and work with farmers on stubble collection?
Yeah, sweet, good idea. But I tell you, there has been a mainstay. It's not that now these models are coming. These models are there since last 20 years. Some of the oldest biomass power projects, if you look at, the first project which came up around here was set up by PSPCL. That was in somewhere in 19 and I think so 96 in that region. That was a 10 megawatt facility, which is widely known as behind that village Jalkhedi. Somehow that project could not make up, and I am very well aware because at that time I had we were very young and I had just completed and probably came around into biomass areas. But it was a very, very good plant which was set up. It was set up with the Danish assistance at that moment. And the project was set up in this Fatehgarh Sahib region. And this region used to have a different kind of paddy straw, which was basically not I would say, collected by mechanized methods, but by hand, I meant to say shearing only. This was all area where you had basmati grown, and still basmati is there in this region. So you will see there's a difference between what I'm trying to say. There's a difference between the kind of different kind of paddy straws also. So
Yes.
if you look at my slides, if you look at my 6th or 7th slide, I have not touched upon so deeply. What I'm trying to say is that what we do with coal as indexing, we also need to do with biomass. There are a lot of regulatory works which are still untouched and unleft in this country. Why it is important? Because this has a direct bearing on the farmer. You will ask me why it has a direct bearing on the farmer. Ultimately, what it is mattering is how much kilocalories or what is the BTU or what is the heat content you are basically transferring. So if I am transferring, let's say, paddy straw with some heat content, then if I could have CRC regulations or I'm going to say figures about with 6 kind of combinations, which have given the paddy straw or non-paddy straw or with some other mixing and other biomasses, we need to have some sort of a mechanism here, which is very, very important. I have already lobbied on this with the government of India also. I have told them to form a committee whereby some work is carried out with some professional mechanism. And this could be later taken up to a level whereby it could be issued as a notification or something like that. I'll tell you some work we have done here. And we have also worked with certain other institutes also. I don't want to go into much detail, but we have already formulated and got recently approved from our LR in the government of Punjab, agreement which will be signed by the farmer for biomass supply and all that with any of the buyers. It could be industry, it could be power plant, it could be CBG plant, or it could be anybody else. So some moves we are already doing in association with the agriculture department. So the farmer is feeling secure. Earlier, there used to be no any paper agreement. If you ask any industry today, they say we don't have any such kind of agreements, but it is just a arrangement we have. Now, some people, I don't want to name certain projects. Some projects are directly buying from the farmers and paying them. Some projects are buying through some intermediaries. One of the recent CBG projects, which is now getting commissioned, they have already directly tied up with the farmers. I was very happy to see a lot of German machinery coming into Punjab, which I have also not seen earlier, is now being the local farmers are getting trained and they are operating it in those fields. They are even hired some lot of new young graduates from PAU, from the extension services and various areas who are helping these, I'm going to say, new CBG projects also. So what I'm trying to say, there is not a standard model, but yes, farmers are definitely getting payment for the paddy straw or other fuels which they are paying to, which they are supplying to the. Now there are various methods of some farmers who have already taken these, what you call it, the support from the Farmer Commission with regard to, they have turned into some young entrepreneurs. And there are a lot of such examples in Punjab. You must be aware of it. Now there are a lot of people who are not gone into it because they are heavily into their own farming activities. So there are intermediaries who are picking from them. And even these youngsters have become intermediaries because they're just not, I mean to say it is, if a machine is running for 45 days, those calculations, I don't want to go into it. Yes. So the balers and reapers and reekers are being run as under what you should say, under a contractual mode, whereby then these people are getting and collecting it and supplying. Yeah. Now, some people are buying only these round bales, some people are buying square bales. So there are different kind of setup. We have not gone and touched the market from that angle because we feel there's a demand supply kind of arrangement. Currently, since we have a very heavily into surplus supplies and the demand is still very less, to be very clear with you, this problem may not abate to be very clear so fast. But yes, we have been requesting the Ministry, Government of India for some support for taking these projects into a slightly higher level. The idea was basically to look at various hybrid models. Now, if you really want to do some, it will not be that there will be only one technology solution to all these kind of things. Now, if I have to take care of all these, the idea given by even Dr. Sunil Dhingra is also good. But I want to tell you that normally we have been allocating only one project per tehsil. Yep. So idea was basically that it is like an arrangement whereby like you are having this sugar supply bonding with the concerned cooperative sugar mill. So similarly, like a biomass power project or CB project, which is operating in one tehsil, we are not allocating any other project in that tehsil, with a view so that there is biomass supply is sufficient enough for that, I mean to say, project to go in. The farmers are also encouraged to tie up with those, I mean to say, projects. So similarly, we have been allocating tehsil wise, whether it is a CBG project or it's a biomass power project. But yes, the arrangements for supply and I mean to say, what kind of payments are made to the farmers, that is I mean to say, field which is still open, and it is based upon a project to project.
Okay.
So there are various methodologies which are working in the state, and you are very well aware of, since you are a part of the development exercise, and you are very well aware of all these kind of various. But yes, we could crystallize this and make it more, what should I say, on a, we could bring them on a platform. But I don't want to touch the market from that angle because, but yes, we have been talking to some other bilateral organizations also. There have been talks of forming a biomass exchange. There are certain other developments also and discussions which are yet on, I want to say, at this moment, deliberation stage only. But we are looking at various options here, whereby we could also provide opportunities to farmers, whereby there have been no projects are still coming up.
Okay.
So we are looking at those kind of options also. Probably we will be touching those subjects very soon. Already there are talks which are going on under deliberations with many of these areas.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
no, thanks a lot. I guess, this kind of information, nobody else apart from you, we would be able to get from, because we also, meet new players who want to come and set up different types of plants. Primarily now the focus is on CBG, but a lot of these companies have doubts that how do we ensure, because these are long-term projects, how do we ensure a constant supply of paddy straw at a constant rate? Though Punjab government and your department has done a very good allocation in terms of district-wise, tehsil-wise, so that there is no competition for the straw. But as an organization, we see that ultimately there will be some premium which will be given for paddy straw. Just to take a parallel example, we see rice husk. Probably 10-15 years back, people used to give money to get rid of rice husk, and now in the market it fetches sometimes 3 rupees and goes up to maybe 5 rupees per kg. So people talk about paddy straw being following the same kind of route, and we hope so it does follow, so that farmers can actually reap benefits for this whole waste to wealth mission. So I guess thanks a lot to everybody, to all the panelists, and I would like to share about the Pusa Krishi Institute. We have been getting support from them. We were incubated there. So it's an excellent team led by Dr. Neeru Bhushan, and below that Dr. Kriti and Shivam and whole of their team members. So yeah, any of the attendees who want to start off in this field or in any other agriculture related field, I would recommend surely go to them. And others from the panelists, if you want any help or any suggestions, I'm sure everybody would be more than happy to help young attendees or startups to come into this field and open their organizations. So yeah, so that's it from my side. Shivam, Dr. Kriti, anything?
Yeah, thank you, Sukhmeet, and I would like to thank all the esteemed panelists over there on the panel, because we have touched upon the broad spectrum of waste to wealth over here, and I feel that few dimensions are still left because the time was running short, and I would love to have these panelists again on some other forum so that we could discuss about this, and we could discuss about the modus operandi of earlier one of our panelists has shared for the policy documentation and policy framing regarding this particular sector, so so that we could plan ahead. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Sukhmeet, for very nice moderation, by very nicely handling the session, and thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thank you, Jain.
Thank you.
Thank you.